Hey folks, welcome to B5 Bricks. Hope you're all well. In today's video, what do you get when you cross the modular 50s diner with the Lego City Hospital? Well, it's my take on a new modular hospital, and isn't she a beauty? I've completely rebuilt the entire diner into this modular, and it has a full, highly detailed interior which I'll show you floor by floor. It also has a working elevator, and at the rear is the large ambulance entrance to the A&E department. I'm going to briefly show you the exterior first, but really the interior is where I feel I've been most creative, as I've had to remove the original interior, which was the boxing ring, the recording studio and the diner, and I've added a really intricate medical interior, and I love what I managed to do to the ground floor in particular. Oh, and weirdly, this has nothing to do with Christmas other than being red and white, but I'm filming this in front of the Christmas tree today as my backdrop is being repaired. So if you're watching this in August, Merry Christmas in 4 months! So the ground floor, I've kept that fantastic front window and the overhang as well from the original set, and of course everything has been recolored from the teal blue to the classic red instead. I've added large windows for the reception area on the side, and I might even use this as a corner building, so this kind of makes sense. And I've extended the rear to incorporate a large entrance door to the accident emergency department, and the elevator is here as well. So up on the first floor, I've built this simple hospital sign, the windows have new ledges, and the top floor window recess has gone, and I've created more floor space as a result. This was a wee bit tricky to do, and there's also a new aircon unit on the side, and another hospital sign at the back as well. Oh hey, so if you haven't subscribed yet, why not do it now, and you can stay up to date with all my MOCs and money saving tips. And if you think this modular is cool, then I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. It's great to get some support for the channel. The rooftop has a lot of greebling and details, but essentially it's a similar shape with that large white curved section from the diner still intact. Now I'll move on to give you a full view of the building here, and you can see some more details like the large chrome lights protruding from the tower section, and you can see the elevator tower a bit better too, and it fits in just fine with that coloration of the tan bricks and the grey. So I'll take the rooftop off, and yeah, I rebuilt this to make it straight and not have a recess like it did with the original diner, and this was straightforward enough to do. The white panel here can close, and all this greebling on the rooftop wasn't there of course on the diner. In fact, it was just a studded area, so I really added a lot, and the idea here is to have the backup generators on the roof and all the aircon vents and all that kind of gubbins as well. And of course you will have noticed the cat who's hunting this mouse, and there's a bit of story to that which I'll explain when we get lower in the building. Here is the reception area for this department, which is radiology, or basically the x-ray department, and I've got some motivational posters and Dot's tiles here for my overworked receptionist. The machine where this poor fellow is inside is meant to be where the x-rays are taken. It's not super accurate, but the modern ones kinda look like that, and the radiologist is positioning him, and she'll go round to the side where the controls are to take the x-ray safely. I have used a light brick element from the Lego City Hospital set, but I've rebuilt this all and used that nice teal colour and various blues all for this area as well. If you're not familiar with this City Hospital, it has these fantastic printed pieces with various body parts, and it projects the image. I've made this area quite big, and even my big hands can play with this quite well, even better for the kids, much better in fact than the original set. Oh, and there's also a wee model skeleton in the side there, and in the reception area I've added lots of nice wee details. One in particular is this 1x1 plate built bookcase. I love putting these into MOCs, it just adds a bit of realism and a nice bit of colour as well. And I've also got a DNA double helix in the corner behind this dad, and some of you may recognise this from Sheldon and Leonard's apartment from the Big Bang Theory set. I'll just take this off here, and you can see I've really not left any part without detail. Rebuilding the window here was a bit of a pain, but it was essential to add more space. I've also added some hidden side stickered parts for the display on the right, and some medical equipment too. Down to the next floor, and there's two areas here. The small part is the hospital's blood work and testing lab, and the larger area is ophthalmology, or well, just the eye department, as it's easier to say, and this side panel is removable to get in to play with it all. And there's some stools here for the lab technician, and in here is also a centrifuge, microscope, and all sorts of medical equipments and containers and drawers and all that kind of stuff. On top of the computer is a wee shelf of paperwork, and this panel fits very neatly in here, but it's really easy to take out, and my kids love to play with this floor in particular, so it had to be easy to move and so they could get their hands in and play with all the bits and bobs. On the other side is the waiting area for the eye doctor, and this mum is just chilling here reading magazines, and you can see her son here, he's getting his eyes tested, and I've used some of the parts from the hospital set, but I've also added another printed tile from a Simpsons minifigure a few years ago, so it's really nice to actually find a use for that tile. Well, I'll just rotate this around here so I can get a closer look into this department, and on the side here the doctor has all these samples of eyeballs and glasses and there's a mirror of course as well for the patients to check out their new look, or well, their new eyes, and I think this area looks really good. Working within the confines of the diner building actually forced me to make it like this and think differently and more creatively perhaps, and I could have enlarged this floor and added more rooms, but I like keeping it compact and it's a bit simpler as well. And I suppose that's the charm of the modulars. They all have these little dioramas, little scenes, little vignettes of things. I think back to the Assembly Squares dentist. Oh, and hey, this is outside. The lab technician looks like he's in a rush. He's got a flask in his hand. Maybe he's discovered something. Who knows? And as I was saying, this floor took a lot of work to figure out exactly how best to fit in the narrow lab area in particular, but I think it works really well. And I was also able to reuse the large curved teal pieces that were on the exterior of the diner, and this became the border for the opticians area, which looks really good, I think. And so now down to the ground floor, and I think this is my favourite area. I put the new dots pieces to good use to make a nice tiled floor design here, and you can see the reception area with a small kitchenette and an archive library. The main surgery area here is actually the emergency suite, or well, the labour suite now, with a mummy who has just delivered a wee baby, and this side panel is also removable to get in here, and also the sink can be removed to get access. The midwife is looking dead chuffed with the baby, and the dad has some cake and flowers for mum. There is a wee door here to the elevator, and I'm really happy to be able to use this printed panel, which is from a Frozen set, which I never thought I'd be able to reuse anywhere, and also one of the nice printed panels from the hospital set here as well. Over the hallway is the main reception and the controlled entry doorway, and the reception has a computer terminal, seating, a coffee machine, and there's a tall bookcase here as well. And you know me, I do love a bookcase for some detail, and this is a really nice tan one with loads of medical records in it, and it just adds a nice border to the area and a bit of colour and variation too. Now I'll show you in this gap here, you can get access to the waiting room, and I'll show you that in more detail in a minute, but first let's go round the back and the rear entrance. It has a large sliding door, and you can easily line up the ambulance here to bring out a patient and straight into the A&E. The door slides really well, and it's a really neat play feature that my kids absolutely love playing with it. They love pushing this door back and forward. The ambulance that came with the hospital set is perfect. I really like it, but those stickers are a bit wonky. I didn't want to build my own, but if I did, I'd maybe make it a bit more boxy looking like the ones we have here in Scotland, they're Mercedes ones, and maybe go for a green and white colour scheme too. Now I'll explain the elevator, and you might know that the diner had this very flimsy spiral staircase, which is no good for a hospital of course, and I knew I had to incorporate an elevator somehow, and this presents quite a problem, but I've made this narrow sliding version which is actually based on the 2019 Batcave lift from Wayne Manor down to the Batcave. It slides easily on these Technic pieces from the ground floor up to each floor, and there's a pin on the back to pull it up or down, and it rests at each floor really nicely, and you can get minifigures on and off easily. Around the front on the overhang there is this nice curved white edge which goes all the way around, and it's a shame to end it abruptly at the side here, but it actually looks quite good as it goes into the side of the elevator. And I've kept these struts here as well so you can get your hand into this lower doorway easy enough. This elevator was the hardest thing to figure out. I didn't want anything too industrial looking, but this exposed frame actually looks kind of cool and it fits with the 1950s aesthetic, I think. It was also tricky to find a way of having this sliding door still able to operate when the lift was being used as well, but after a bit of trial and error I managed to get a really good build and I didn't waste any space at all. And putting the mechanism at the top of the elevator made it easier to move and also slide that other door across. I like it! And the kids have been playing with it for ages today, and it's durable and it doesn't break. But hey, it's not exactly my design, it is essentially a smaller version of the Batcave lift. So hey, let's put it all back together, and you can also see I've used the blue dots mosaic here on each floor, and this just makes it have a uniform appearance on each floor, which is nice, and I love that blue colour. I wish I had more parts in that colour actually. And yeah, I've added this corner piece here as well, and this is to make it simpler to connect, and it's also striped like the rest with the red and white. I know it's a bit weird to have that, but I think it's handy having a part like that as a guide to make it easier to attach again. Oops, I'll just pop the hospital sign back on. And I'll add the X-ray department now. Yeah, I do like the diner. It wasn't my favourite modular. I really liked that curved front window and the rounded tower is cool, but I feel it looked a bit out of place in my city, or on my street now, especially with the colours and the style. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there was something odd about the diner and the corner garage as well. Maybe it's just that whole Americana theme, I don't know. And my kids actually didn't play with the city hospital set that much, so I wanted to make something they'll actually play with instead, and I'm really surprised with how much they've enjoyed this. They have subsequently added a helipad themselves to the roof, as they really like the wee helicopter that came with the Lego city set. I've got it on a shelf next to the Chez Albert and the Assembly Square, and it fits in perfectly. I really think it looks better than the diner, especially as it's not a modern skyscraper-y looking building. In fact, it could exist in the Fallout game series universe with that 1950s look. I love the modulars, but it's been years now having them in my city, or now my street, as the way Lego intended, but now I think it's time to rebuild them all. I like adding stories with the minifigures too, like this crazy cat lady. She's looking for her missing cat. Might it be the one on the rooftop? Yes, probably. And this dude is busking outside with his saxophone and he's advertising a rock festival. And there's also the bin here with advertising signs on it. I'm going to incorporate this into my next modular rebuild as well. Oh, and here's the new grandparents of the newly born baby and the big sister, and they're waiting patiently in the waiting room. Let me know in the comments if you're going to build something like this as well. Are you a fan of the modulars like me? And leave me a like, it's great to get some support for the channel. And hey, if you like this video, why not subscribe and hit the notifications bell too so you don't miss a thing. And why not check out some of my other videos here on simple MOCs, money saving tips, and my micro Gotham City build. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks very much for watching, I really appreciate it. Bye!